This conference will now be recorded.
So we need to take a roll call first?
Yeah. Steve McNamee.
Yes.
Dan Sharkey.
Here.
And Russell Kish.
Here.
Annalise Hansen.
Lisa will be here in a minute, and Kevin will not be here today. You have an agenda?
I do right here.
Perfect.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, the notice of the special meeting was published in Naples Daily News on January 3rd, 2023. And so we'll provide a copy once we get it from the newspaper, so we can put it in the record.
Yeah. In fact, I think there was an email that showed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the record, so we've met more than met the second.
Okay. Let's do the pledge quickly. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we've got to approve the agenda. We have a copy of the agenda?
Do you want to have a copy?
Thank you so much. This is the agenda. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are the folks from the county here yet? Weren't they coming this morning? I thought they were. Okay, maybe they'll come later. And we also have the folks from Inframark here. No, the Blue Stream guys won't. Just for the record, this week, I've been in negotiations with Blue Stream Fiber Optics to possibly bring in fiber optics to the whole community. We're in the early stages. I know that a lot of the condos and whatnot have it already, but a lot of the homes don't. And of course, the 100 people out here will not. So they've approached us, and we're going to look into seeing if we can't get some of that high speed in here.
So did we approve the agenda? Do we got a motion for approving the agenda?
Yeah, number 3 is approval of the agenda.
I thought we were working on it.
Are there any changes to the agenda? You good with the agenda? Do you want to get these guys up front?
Sure. Well, let's bring Intermark.
So I guess we need a motion if we could approve the agenda as it stands.
I thought we were going to have to change it before we approved it.
Well, we're going to change it.
Wait a minute.
Let's change it. We're going to move the agenda around a little bit, and then we'll approve it.
Okay.
And we'll be good. Because under 5B, there's presentation by firms as to providing district management services. Is that the one referencing the folks from Inframark? And so I guess, yes, is that the concept of moving that up to before audience comments?
We could do audience comments and whatnot first.
And then new business, let's start them on.
Maybe just go into new business with them.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically moving 5B ahead of 5A. Is that
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to move them up. So it could be a motion to that effect.
Make a motion to move 5B up to 5A and to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in
All
favor?
in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Audience comments. Does anyone have any comments to start us out with?
I have on non-agenda items.
Okay.
Here you go, for you.
For the record, Jennifer, it is 9:17 a.m. Ms. Hanson has arrived. Supervisor Hanson has arrived.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope it's very good.
It's all right.
You need to.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Catherine Kellmeyer, 314 Newport Drive. I have two specific to Newport Drive. One is the huts that have the agave in front of the hotel. They're getting terribly overgrown with weeds and whatnot. They need to be cleaned out.
Okay.
There's one also by the real estate. There's a line here and then one over there just past the real estate. So there's 5 of them, maybe 6 of them.
Okay.
7. The other thing is a while back, signs were put on Newport Drive going down from the marina down. At every center divide where either a road goes through or a driveway to a private home goes through. They are authorized vehicle parking only and anybody else will be towed. Those signs, there are 24, if not more, going down Newport Drive. There's no room to park, it's landscape, they detract from the neighborhood, and they're just really obnoxious
Where'd they come
the
from?
whole way down Newport Drive.
Where'd they come from?
They came from the board quite a few years ago when Dan Cox was here, and I asked about up by the marina. I was expecting the same thing of a private property sign like is to the condos there at Sunset K Lakes in front of 338 Newport. But it just ended up being a generic sign, nothing about who's going to tow you. And Dan said it was because it's a public road. It's not private property like the condos. So these signs are just all the way down Newport. I would appreciate it if the board would consider taking them out.
Taking them all out?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely. Thank you.
you're welcome. Does anyone else have any input on what she just asked about? Signs, anybody for or against taking them out?
I have to look at them.
They were the ones that were on the sticks at one time, and now they're at least on some kind of post.
We'll look at this and get back to you on the 20th
That's
at the
fine.
next meeting, all
Thank
right?
you.
Mr. Chairman, then would you like to have an agenda item discussion concerning, I guess there's no parking signs on Newport Drive?
Sure.
Yeah.
For the next
Unauthorized
meeting.
Vehicles, I think is what it's, yeah.
And then for that, if the board wishes to, I don't know what the board's thoughts are. If the board wants to adopt a towing policy, the board has the ability to do that on district roads. But we'll get direction at that meeting.
I didn't know that we had any enforcement authority.
The legislature a few years back adopted modified provisions regarding towing for public bodies. And if you adopt a resolution designating tow-away zones, you utilize the same sort of signage that you use for private property posting it, then and entering into a contract with a towing company and usual, then the district has the ability to establish tow-away zones and tow. So if you want me to, I've got a memo where I can send it.
So basically, we would end up then having a company that would come in here, troll around and see if they could find a thing and haul them away?
Typically, those are complaint driven by.
Complaint driven?
In the way, the board can establish the parameters that only take place, the towing, upon contacting the towing company by an authorized agent of the district.
Okay.
As opposed
Yes,
to-
if you would send me that, that would be
Yeah,
great.
what I'll do is I'll include in the, I'll have a memo I've done for other districts on towing policies, and I can just include that in the packet for the next board meeting.
I just personally, myself, not as the board, I don't really want to start towing people's vehicles because we'll end up towing friends' cars away and whatnot. I
That's
mean,
always a consideration.
if it's if it's an ongoing issue or something, you know, I've noticed that, you know, we've had campers over there by the hotel's property there for quite a few weeks now. And I know that there was some legalities where the county was saying displaced people could supersede some of those rules. I don't know if and when those are still in place. I hesitate to chase somebody off too that, you know, is really having a problem because they got chased out of their own home. But
Yeah, and again, what the board can do, again, it's a board policy decision. The board decides they want to, they can pick discrete areas. Notice you can say this 50-foot stretch is a no towing there.
sure,
It's not community-wide necessarily. But anyways, that can be a policy discussion
okay.
if the board wants.
Catherine, wasn't that driven because of the amount of vehicles?
What, Dan?
Wasn't that driven because the amount of vehicles parking at the boat, for the boat ramp and things when they were parking up and down? the road?
Sometimes when they have a fishing tournament,
Yes.
it may
that's what
be
I'm
a
saying.
problem.
It's a problem. Other than
I've
that-
only seen one person park there and he was going on, well, you don't want me being on my cell phone and driving, so I pulled over here. He was highly insulted when I took a picture of his license plate.
Okay.
But But,
But I do believe that problem back then was driven because of people going to the marina.
yeah.
Right?
And see, now there's parking over there where the hotel and the marina share that. So I really haven't seen anything, and I'm on.
I know I ride bike through there all the time. I
Yeah.
rarely have seen a vehicle parked
Yeah,
out there.
No,
Yeah, okay.
No, it's.
We will definitely look into it and get back to you on the
Thank you.
20th. Any other comments? Okay. So would you fellows like to come forward and give us a short presentation?
Example on 5B for the record, Mr. Chairman.
We're back to new business.
Morning.
Good morning. Good to see you again.
Likewise, pleasure. Just a matter of introduction, introduce myself. My name is Christopher Race. I'm the Vice President of Infomart. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. I travel back and forth. I oversee the business that we do from the community management side, and including HOAs and CDDs in Florida and Texas. I spend half my time here in Florida and half the time there in Texas as well. And Justin Fairclough, for those of you who haven't met Justin, Justin's the district manager, lives right down the road, operates in Naples as well, and oversees the market. He would be the district manager assigned to your community, as well as Jake Whitlock back there, who does our field service manager, and does inspections and reporting and things of that nature for the district. So wanted to take an opportunity. I appreciate the time to meet with you. And I feel compelled to just go over kind of the history of the transition to Infomark and how that kind of came to be. I think there's people know that Severn Trent used to be out here. It's not a secret. I showed up just after or as we were transitioning. Port Islands was transitioning away from Severn Trent at the time, so I had no kind of involvement in that at the time. So what happened is the transition. So Infomark, Severn Trent was global water wastewater company based out of the UK. Our senior leadership group, executive team, at one point decided and convinced the UK and Severn Trent to sell the North American business to North American ownership and private ownership, which is what that ended up happening about
approve invoices, or you could have the district manager approve invoices based on contracts.
Sure.
But you have the opportunity to come in there and see what's going on at any day and time. We can pull reports for you at any point in time, see the history of every vendor. So if you wanted to know how much you paid to Far Utility Solutions over the last 6 months, we could give you every single invoice and show you the total. It's really that quick. You can search it quickly yourself, or we provide that data for you. We don't have to wait weeks at a time to give you that kind of information. It's really at your fingertips. So we're fully transparent in that regard. I do agree with the transition of the company. I saw issues here, and when I found out there was issues with the plant, I tried to bring in senior leadership on the other side of our business and to solve that issue and to work to make it right. And our company does want to make it right. I can tell you that Chris came in during that transition. I had some questions about the company myself, but Chris's leadership style is completely different. And I can tell you, I fully back and appreciate Infomark as a company, and that's why I'm still here today. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the people I work with, and I think the people that I work with would say the same.
Thank you. I know one of the big questions here, there's folks here that have been here for a lot of years, and they have, Severn Trent left with a bad taste in their mouth.
Absolutely.
Now, how much of that, I don't know how to say this. Cal was the district manager under Severn Trent at the time, correct?
My understanding is that Cal had oversight of what was going on and signing off on invoices of what materials were being purchased. And my understanding from the research that I did afterwards, Severn Trent was buying the wrong granulate material to put into the filters and stuff.
Sure.
And My understanding is that Severn Trent was making that right or paying to fix that after the fact. But that's what I discovered. Hope Montez specified a certain type of product that had to be used. And really the district manager should have known the right items to be purchased and be signing off on the right items. And so that's my responsibility as district manager, to know what's going on, to be involved, and to make sure that the right things are being done. I would also say there's responsibility for the engineering firm to have oversight as well. And again, that's the thing, as a management team, you should be working with your attorney, you should be working with the engineer, you should be working with on-site staff as well as the supervisors, and everyone is well informed, know what's going on, and making sure that everything is running well. I don't want to stick my nose in things that you don't want me doing, but at the same time, I want to be involved so that I'm, consulting well for you.
Now, I know you said the management and the engineer should have known about the correct materials to be used. Where does that lie along with the person running the plants?
I agree, 100%. It is their responsibility to know what the system requires. It's a very detailed system. There's plans out there. I've seen parts of the plans that are listed there. It's very clear what needs to be done and how it's supposed to be run. I can't speak to all the modifications that have been made. I mean, a water wastewater treatment facility, you're constantly making upgrades or changes to it as material ages, et cetera. And there's maybe improvements that have been made too. So I can't speak to all of that. And it would be a learning.
It was a team effort.
Correct.
The mistake was a team effort.
I would say that. And so that's what I would say going forward, is that you have great oversight and you're involved, that you ask questions, that you come and inspect. You see what's going on. I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the oil is what it said. And if you're looking around and seeing what's going on, and it should be a supervised visit. I mean, they should maybe not necessarily know that you're coming, but you should be welcome to come there and see what's going on and inspect the condition of the plant at any time.
Yeah, okay. You have a question?
Yes. Are you accredited by the?
Name, I need their name.
Can we have your name, please? For the record?
Charles Gordon.
Thank you.
Is the question, are we accredited by the Better Business Bureau?
Yes.
I believe Infomarket is accredited with the Better Business Bureau, I believe so, yeah.
Pardon?
I believe so, yeah. I can verify 100%, but I don't generally deal with the Better Business Bureau, so I'm not sure. I know that we've had dealings with them, so I believe that we are.
Well, I've got a report here that says that you're not accredited.
That Infomarket is not.
It's under Infomark.
I can get some clarification for you. I'm happy to provide that to the board later today, if possible.
I can say that I'm a certified district manager from the Florida Association of Special Districts. So I've been through a special training process. I had to put out a report to get that certification and pass the qualifications for that in order to get that certification. So I try to make sure that I'm involved, informed, and know what to do so I can give great consultation to the board.
Is that an ongoing certification?
It is. I have continuing education credits every 2 years. That was a 3-year rotational period, but now it's every 2 years.
Okay. And would the board normally be provided that type of a thing from the management company?
You're welcome to come. In fact, you're encouraged as a special district to come and attend the Florida Association of Special Districts. I've encouraged some of my board members to go. I think it's it's a great opportunity for you to learn, gain insight, hear what's going on in the industry, and to see how you can better improve your community, to see what services are out there for you as well, and just be well informed, keep you out of trouble also.
So when would that happen again, do you suppose?
They do it yearly. They have an annual conference I think it's the second week in June.
Okay.
I believe the next conference is in Orlando already scheduled, but you can look them up on the website, FASD.
So, and the reason I ask that is
we are a member as well of FASD.
I went through our minutes of our meetings and so forth, and I've never come across anything that talked about management having certification. So we weren't even clear whether or not you had to have more than a high school education. We didn't know.
It's not a requirement to have that certification. It's an extra additional opportunity you can have. For me, I wanted to make sure that my clients understood I want to do a good job. I want to be informed. I want to know what's going on. At the end of the day, you need to follow advice of legal counsel, but at the same time, your district manager should be well informed. And so I try to stay very ear to the ground, so to speak, with the industry to know what's going on, what changes are being made every year with the legislature, and what could potentially impact you.
Okay, great.
And we also offer the supervisor training event as well. That's something we do every 2 years for our clients. We invite other clients to come as well. It is a marketing opportunity for us, but we more importantly want to train our boards to keep them out of trouble, to give them the information they can so they can serve their community as well.
3 of us have already went through their supervisor training. Cal's company's got one put on today, but we didn't know about that one, so we went and took theirs. So we're trying to keep up the speed on what we need to do to stay in compliance with everything as well. Anyone else have any questions for these fellows? Karen?
Hi, Karen Reed, 199 Case. Just so I'm clear, if you guys commit, will Mitch be staying at the plant?
I would not have a say on that. That would have to do with the board. Our goal is to do what the board's wishes or desires. I'm not coming in with an agenda at all. I'm coming in to serve. That's my idea.
And the other is, I haven't heard any costs. No. Coming in.
We have provided a proposal to the board.
Just for your first point, when we did talk to him, to the team here about Mitch,
Right.
we are very happy with Mitch.
Right, okay.
The only reason for talking about it is it's about a $350,000 price tag on his management. You know, if you can get it for $250,000, maybe you should be looking at it. But it isn't, and I've assured Mitch that we are very satisfied with him. But we wouldn't be doing our responsibility if we weren't looking at all of this.
No,
So
no, that's understandable, but you have to remember sometimes you pay for what you get.
I don't know if you also heard.
Happy with having coming forward.
Yeah,
She did.
Yeah.
I also don't know if you
Karen
heard or
Reed.
not, but I'm a personal friend of Mitch Gilbert. I've known him for a number of years. My wife is the office manager there, his son. But what the board chooses to do, that is up to them.
We like Mitch, he's doing a good job.
Several of us have went through plant tours on our own with Mitch, so he's taken us around and shown us how this is going and explained it to us, and he seems to be very much on top of what he's doing. And he cares. He's the guy who says, you call me and I'll be there anytime,
Every
any
meeting you've
place.
been to and his crew's been here, you've been very good and responsive.
We agree.
What was that? I missed what she said.
She said that his crews have been very responsive to any questions or any.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Linda, I'm from Newport, and talking about Mitch, he came out here during the storms and stuff, and we never ran out of water in the last storm. And is that something that your company would do?
Absolutely, absolutely it is, and we're not coming in.
Where are your employees? I mean, he came across town and he was.
I'm local in Naples, so I work locally in Naples. I live in Naples, off of 951.
Let's not get too far into this because unless there's a big dollar difference, it isn't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because like I said, we are in agreement with you. Mitch
And
performs.
I can tell you my experience in the last hurricane. I was on the phone with Mitch as Hurricane Ian came in, and after the fact. So I know his effort, his work ethic. My concern was that our community had water and wastewater facilities, and everything was continuing to run, and he assured me of that.
Perfect. Frank? Frank Lee.
I didn't understand, Frank Lee, Case Drive. I didn't really understand the question about the Better Business Bureau, but I do know that several years ago, we had a contractor that ran into this. And what we found when I called the Better Business Bureau, from my estimation, was to be whatever this affiliation is requires two things. You have to be an incorporated business and you have to give them a check.
Yeah.
If you give them a check, then you're in their family. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go.
You say you're local.
Yes, sir.
One of our big issues, everything that started the ball rolling on most of the stuff was the records, okay? We're gonna transfer records from Premier. Where are they going? Because I really want the records here. That's a big, do they have to be with you? You make it sound like everything's gonna be computerized once you get rolling, that we'll have access to the invoices and minutes and all that stuff. It's gonna be
Are any of your, are all of your current record storage all paper? I'm just wondering if any of them are digitized, because
We don't know.
one of the things we'd like to do and what we look at during transitions is how much there is, and then really kind of look at the digitizing part of it, so you can move away from all that paper,
But
all
see,
the boxes.
that's the problem. We don't even know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
I have been begging to get into the district office to look at that stuff.
Yeah.
And have never been allowed in. So
We do not continually increase your document storage as far as paper, physical documents. We try to do everything digitally at this point. It's a better way to keep documentation. The only thing we would keep paper is if anything required for like a bond indenture or something like that we had to go and sign. But eventually those are all digitized as well. We have a great document storage system called DocuWare, where you can search by word, content, phrase, etc.
So that's
we
what
find that stuff like this.
You're going to digitize the records that we have currently. Now, these go back to what, 93?
Yeah.
Yes, all our records, some have been digitized through Cal, and we have about 26 boxes that are not.
Okay.
now that, when you talk about doing word searches and whatnot, is that something that the board can do? Would we
Sure,
have
we can give
access to
you
that?
access to DocuWare as well,
Perfect.
if you want that. I mean, that's something that could possibly be done.
I mean, I would want limited access to it, maybe just a board, not the general public. Because the general public can go in and ask for any record at any time.
Right.
But I'm just thinking that when I have questions, it would sure be nice to just be able to search the records without bothering anybody or paying anybody to do it.
But you're going to be, you're local.
I work,
Your office, is this your office? or you
I work
home?
remotely, so I work from home.
Okay.
So I live there. I don't plan on leaving Naples. My kids are in school at Mason Classical Academy. They love that school. My wife loves that school. We are not leaving. I've told her plenty of times we could have what we want in Alva, and we could live comfortably, service 4 different counties, but we're committed to that school. We go to church in Estero, Summit. That's where we are. So that's what we do.
Okay, so
I'm not leaving.
I'm not done yet. So,
Sure, keep on.
explain exactly what you do. You're the district manager. The other issue we had with, what I thought we were getting with Cal is he was getting to the point where he had 8 or 9 communities. Okay, to me, that's a concern. Okay, because we're number one, that's all. You know what I mean? In
Absolutely.
our minds, we don't care. Well, we care, but we don't care about the other communities. We want we want the special treatment.
So I do have,
So your job is to do exactly what?
so I do have a portfolio of clients. I have 8 clients currently right now. Our goal is to make sure we maintain good service to you. That's why we brought on additional staff.
No, not an overview. What do you do?
So I interact.
Like, we've got her here now. Who's gonna do the audio visual? Who's gonna do the ADA requirements? Who's gonna, you get staff that does that? So you do it remotely? Everything, all that is remote, or? I just wanna know exactly what you're doing. I mean,
So currently, right now, I interface with all my board members. When they call someone, they can call their staff, but our back office staff is open to them. They can call payroll, they can call AP, they can call our accountants, they can call anybody they want to. But really, I'm really the interfacer between everything. If the board needs something, they come to me. They can go to other people, but I'm not open. My cell phone's right there. I answer my cell phone, I respond to emails. So, but I handle contracts. I go out for bids for districts, for proposals, what they need, if it's under the public threshold. Otherwise, we would get the attorney involved. I work directly with the attorney, the engineer. I oversee the contracts, make sure we're paying according to the contract, unless the board wants to pay their own invoices. So I do that. Jacob is learning right now how to process and pay according to contracts. And so those are things that he does as well. He also does our field management in-house.
so he's Chris Pepin.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
very similar.
he is for now. The intent with Jacob is as Justin, his portfolio either grows, we pick up new clients and whatnot, is to have Jacob on board as assistant district manager to learn the business. He's a little green, so he's learning the business, he's learning the industry, learning to work with the boards, what it's all about. Ideally, he moves into kind of a district manager role as well, so it splits up the responsibilities. But even in the meantime, as he's as an assistant district manager, he's doing the field stuff, cutting his teeth, getting that. But it also allows and takes some stuff off of Justin's plate as a district manager, so he can assign stuff, that projects that he was working on with different communities, or vendor follow-up and things of that nature. And now Jacob could do, free him up to deal more with the boards and the high level stuff, and take some of that other stuff off of his plate. So, and then there's, support on the recording side of it, on the administrative side. The goal is to let our district managers just focus on the high level work of the board and let them be able to assign the tasks out to somebody else.
So I do develop the agendas, I work on the agenda packets, work on the minutes, all that.
You're confident with audiovisual stuff, so that we seem to be having problems here almost every month. Getting this on, like, we put this on YouTube.
Sure, we don't currently do that, but I do know that Jacob recorded our supervisor training event, and that's something that he's experiencing as well.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if we did bring you on board and we'd have to buy some equipment and whatnot, you could probably figure that out for us.
Absolutely, we have an IT department in-house as well, handles issues. I do Zoom with other communities as well, so.
I have one other question, being that you do multiples of these. When and what time are their meetings normally?
In the mornings normally. I
Normally?
have some afternoon meetings as well.
What time in the mornings?
9 o'clock.
Normally 9 o'clock in the mornings, not too much in the evenings.
No, sir.
You don't have complaints from the citizens asking because they're at work, they can't come? I mean, we get both directions here.
So typically when the district's not running well and they're not doing things for the community shows up. I have very little attendance at most of my communities because they don't even know there's a CDD. They're happy with the lakes and they'll email the general manager or the HOA and say, we got this issue. They'll forward that email to me and I'll respond and say, you're welcome to contact me anytime you have an issue with the lakes, the littorals, whatever it may be. We're glad to help. We're the district manager here and we take care of this. We'll take care of that right now. We'll contact the vendor. This is what's being done. This is where we're at in the project, whatever it may be. So we respond directly to residents.
No,
Okay.
what I'll add to that, having a bigger purview of kind of the state, we have over 125 districts, and there is a combination. There are a number of them that do have evening meetings as well. But I can tell you, I was in West Chase, up outside of Tampa last night. Their board meeting, they were basically had 3 separate districts combined into one. So it's a really large area and community. There were 3 residents at their meeting at 6 o'clock or at 5 o'clock. So I don't know that like.
We had a lot more input in here when we were selling 13 and whatnot. I mean, so there was a lot. There are times when there's some issues that come up,
Yeah.
but we're trying to get rid of a lot of those issues.
We're here.
Did you have more?
Our job is to help you.
Okay, sorry. I thought maybe you were waving at me.
I still, are we not going to discuss money then?
We need your name, please.
Melanie Sheedy.
I can tell you we presented a proposal and I believe that proposal is substantial savings to what you're currently paying. I'm willing to disclose it, but it's up to you.
Go ahead. Why not? Well, we disclose everything here.
I believe our total proposal at this point in time is $114,400.
Is what?
$114,400. And that combines.
Right now,
everything
we're
within
paying
the budget.
about 135, I believe. So they're about 25,000 less. And they're gonna sharpen their pencils a little bit harder yet.
Do we have the
Right,
same
guys?
services or?
Yeah, what's that?
We have the same services? We're getting the same thing as we got from town?
They're a little bit cheaper on the district management part. They're a fair bit cheaper on the field management as well as the water bills. They're
Okay.
cheaper on that as well. They're not a ton cheaper on the management, a little bit, but not a ton. But the rest,
What about those add-ons that we were paying Cal, for the engineering?
well, that's separate from them. I mean, that's a different contract. The engineer and the legal really has nothing to do with them, other than they will
I
call
thought
them.
that Cal could do an add-on to all the costs that we would have done, like, we had a rolling down, you could get a bid and then add on. Was that true?
Typically, that engineer may do that. Yes, there is some of that,
Was that good?
but I don't remember personally seeing much of that.
I think what I can clarify for us is, there's no charge to do RFPs or get bids and things of that nature. We don't do any additional charges for that. Now, if we're asked to help manage kind of a capital project or something like that, which is going to take up more time for the district manager, essentially, then there might be, but just to kind of get a quote or something like that. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me,
Catherine Kellmeyer, would you do the water billing also?
That is included.
Okay. Twice a month, are we gonna stay with twice?
Every
a
2
month?
months.
Are you considering going every month? Okay, that's fine.
We haven't talked about it, no.
Okay.
And how do you transfer that? Because right now, carefully, most of the district is on auto pay. You know what I mean? So what would we do with that, another bank or
Well,
another system?
it's- I think I need to dig into it. I don't necessarily have the answer for you right now because I need to understand the process better. That's currently going on and the funds are how they're being collected, whatnot. But what we would do is if it's with the bank, it would generally still stay kind of with the banks. I don't know that would necessarily be the issue at all.
I would assume they're paying directly to the district's bank account, and we would maintain that.
So would you go directly to Cal's company to get these answers, or how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, we would get that, or we would work with your Mitch and, how they're getting the information over as well, because we need that data done.
Well, let's just say,
And the rate sheet.
that we voted that we wanted to hire your firm.
Mhm.
How long would it take you to be active? To have the water bill switched over, to have the phone switched over, the website, whatnot?
It's generally about 30 days,
Okay.
as kind of a rule of thumb. What I would, want to look at is, for the specific data is really what the cycle is. I don't know when your last water bill went out or when your next one.
December 28th.
It went out December 28th, so the next one
That
will be
was the
till
reading.
the end of February.
Yes.
Whatever it is, so, yeah, we should be up and ready to go by the time the next.
You would be able to do the
Well,
water bill at the
his
end of
term-
February?
His company continues to serve until the 28th of February, if that's
That's
correct.
that's not right.
Well, no, well,
And that's
that
a
changed.
separate discussion.
Okay.
But
I'm
the
sorry.
termination letter effectively terminates the agreement as of February 18th.
Okay.
And there was some discussion, and that's an item on the agenda, for possible consideration
To finish
of
up.
having an interim agreement for 10 days.
Okay, gotcha.
Until the 28th, in order to cover the spirit of that, for board discussion, you all may want to stick around.
That's why I'm wondering. I need to know what our options are.
Yeah.
If we have to continue with them, or if we have an option.
Yeah.
All right.
So and maybe it's something that serve to, have a clean break at the end of the month. Typically, most of the transitions we do are a clean break at the end of the month for financial reasons too. You have to get all the financials completed and whatnot.
Well, we originally had that set up, but it's changed.
Understood. So we'll be able to support either way. Usually it's kind of cleaner to do at the end of the month, and especially if, they have all the information, you make sure you get the last set of bills that go out at the end of February, and then that gives us plenty of time for the next set to make sure it's all perfect and everything.
Or I guess another question that the board may want to have, Mark, is assuming for sake of discussion that the transition needs to take place as of 18, well.
Go ahead and ask them a
As of the
question.
18th or the 19th.
Mhm.
Would you all be in a position, assuming there's a smooth transition in the utility billing process, to send the bills out in a timely fashion on February 28th?
I believe we would be.
Have you got any other questions for him?
Yeah, I think the board, it's waiting for the board, I think the next board meeting.
No, I'm sorry, let me clarify. I believe we would be, based on how quickly and accurate the information we get to be able
Fully
to.
understood.
To be clear.
No, I understand that.
But I'm thinking too, what if the water bills were a week late? It's.
And again, I don't know about all the financial issues as far as payments or made to vendors payments and the timing. That's a management issue as far as timing, paying all the vendors, make sure there's enough cash, the cash position. That's something you can maybe get some guidance if you decide to go with Infomart. But I think what the board suggested, the board in the January 20th meeting, including the agenda packet, the final proposal from Infomart, to sharpen their pencils, as well as and they have a proposed form of contract. I have a general form of contract I use for district management services, which I think Justin's familiar with. It's almost like a standard in the area here. That we could have, I think, in the agenda packet for the board and the public, so they can see what in advance, including the scope of services, so we can do an apples to apples, and the board can do an apples to apples with what's currently in the agreement and what is proposed by Infomart. But again, I think that's a question that can help the board. Whether or not, assuming for sake of discussion, Premier does not agree to a short-term interim agreement, whether or not Infomart can get the billing out sufficiently to maintain a cash flow within a reasonable period of time.
Carol, So Karen, did you have something else?
Yeah, it's a good question. On the website, well, two actually. On the website, do you have a webmaster?
I currently, we work with a third-party vendor to oversee that.
Okay.
That's been the recommendation from us to handle ADA issues.
ADA. And what we have available on it for members comment right now. Will we have input, the community have input of what they would like to see on the website and build a website?
That's up to the board.
Well, the other thing that you can do on that is we can give you the names of some of the places that he's already managing. You can go onto their websites, see how they're doing it, see if that's what you like, or, we can adjust.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea so that people can bring it up at home, see it, so that when we have a next meeting, we come with knowledge and information that we've seen it and can ask questions at that time, so it doesn't prolong it.
Right, and I think the last issue was that we didn't have transparency.
Right.
And that we needed more information, and we need to look at that, because there's a lot of people that don't get the information.
Well,
Yeah, well, the biggest thing was that all we get for, this is all you see, is the agenda. The biggest complaint was they can't see, right, but they can't see what's in the agenda pack, because they said we couldn't be ADA
What
compliant with it.
district do you have, Justin?
What's that?
Which local district?
Cedar Hammock, Heritage Bay.
Heritage Bay, okay. I'm familiar with Heritage Bay.
And how long would it take in the transition to digitize all the information prior to your company, to get all that information on the website, past information, if you want to go out and look at it, bring that information over?
So two things. One is the board decision of what they want to put on the website.
Right.
Not, so some will put, copies of financials, some will put.
I'm saying the capability.
Yeah, so having the capability, it's kind of a standard structure that's in place that allows us to kind of do that. Should the board decide whatever they want to put on there for us to include some of that stuff, usually the council has some input into what they should or shouldn't put out there. But from an ADA, we want to make sure it's ADA compliant, which is why we use kind of a third-party provider to make sure that there's a capability there. We haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't run into any issues with making sure that it's ADA compliant or having any compliance issues there. So I think from a timing standpoint, you can go pretty quickly once they decide. Now, the digitizing project, it depends. We have several that are kind of in the pipeline right now, so as we kind of see what the timeline is, we can, move it up. Where we're at in the flow right now with that.
You're new.
You'd be able to do the cost.
No, I've been,
support.
Yep, we get a cost of
8
the
months.
It's usually like
Good.
$850 a box or something like that to go through the whole digitization.
We met
process and
before.
labor involved.
Did you say those?
Yes, ma'am. Well,
No, those, Lori Williams, 191 Sunset Gate. Will, the homeowners have, the option for digital bill paying for the water bill?
we have that now.
Yeah.
And we will continue that.
Mhm.
Where you can auto pay from your bank, yes.
We don't want to take a chance.
Let's go for it.
I just didn't hear how much you said it was gonna cost to digitize each box of information that.
I believe I've seen it recently because we're doing it for some stuff. I think it was $250 a box.
But from what I'm understanding is the vast majority has been digitized. There are additional boxes, but I'm not sure that they're relevant to needing to be digitized. Hopefully they didn't do it because they didn't need them. But we will still have them and maybe we'll even store them here out at the water plant. The ones that they're not using.
The one question I would ask is, does the board have a records retention policy currently? Do we know?
In other words, how long do we have to keep them?
Well, there's statutory limits.
That's a state.
They should be following the GSL 1, GSL utility. There's two separate GS standards that the board needs to, district needs to follow.
Okay. So what we
They
would-
should be following.
Yeah.
And it's the manager role to do that.
Yeah, and so we'll look at that, and the reason I say is you may have 26 boxes, but some of them you don't need to keep, and what we would recommend is to destroy them.
Right.
Get rid of them if you don't need to keep them, and there's no policy or statute requiring you to, before, rather than assume the cost.
But I can tell you this, we have information, about your district, because we were the district manager before, so we know what's going on with your community, we're familiar with it, I think it shouldn't be so hard with the records.
Okay, if we have 26 boxes, what would you do with them? right now?
Currently, we would send them to our back of office staff, which is Coral Springs, and they would be the people that would begin the digitization process if that's what the district wanted to do with them. And that's where they would go.
But they charge a fee of, I think, $15 a box for storage a month.
Which is why we would recommend you go to digitization.
Which is a
And
one-time.
then we don't charge anything for digital record retention. And we don't generate, as I stated earlier, new paper records. We do everything digitally right now, unless it's required by the attorney.
So I'm thinking that we could get Mitch to give us a spot in that secured area in the interim so that we're not paying thousands of dollars a month.
I say we go through the boxes, decide what's got to be digitized or what can be thrown
But it's got to start somewhere. Maybe we start it there. I don't know.
Start it there.
But that's something that we can, that's a detail.
Continuing from here on, if you took over today, everything would be digitized?
Yes, sir. Unless it's required by the attorney for some special reason that you need a paper document. Even right now, it's something we record for other districts with Collier County. Those are digital records. We don't keep paper copies.
So do you think that your company may have, let's just say, our stormwater permit for the place? You think you guys would still have that retained or not?
I don't know. I need to talk to our records manager.
All right, perfect. Anything else?
Is there an appearance fee?
A what?
Here?
The
No,
fees-
this is fair.
Your fees, like, your fees,
Yeah.
basically, there's a straight fee when you show up here, it's not an additional fee, it's an additional fee for the meetings.
Well, typically in their contracts, it's set for them attending X amount of meetings.
Right, okay.
And it's usually, and I think it's like 16, is it not?
It's usually 13, 12 meetings plus a budget.
Something like that. And if we have, like today,
Right.
if it was over our limit, yeah, it would be,
But
Have a
most
ch-
people,
have a chart.
don't realize that or know that, Dan, so.
Yeah.
Questions on charges, billing, we always get a charge for postage and handling stuff. And
Yeah, the
Cassie probably knows better than I do, all these extra things that come along that go with the billing or with.
The postage is just that cost, it's just a pass through, whatever it is, the rates change, that's it.
So you have a list of those kind of things that are on top of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it's in there, it probably was at the back end of the proposal, or if not,
We're paying that
it'll
now,
be in
right?
the agreement.
I believe that right now, whenever there's like massive information that needs to be sent or distributed to the whole community, then there's an additional charge to it, depending on how much it will cost.
How about our books and things for the meetings, when we put the agenda packets together, we usually get a printed version of that to work off of.
We would encourage you to go digital, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you needed them printed off, then we print them off for you.
Oh, I have a computer.
well, we could each have an iPad here too.
Yeah,
And then everybody in here also could.
Yeah, a lot of our districts, what they'll do is we recommend to the boards that they invest in in the iPads so that you just have them, and then we, have the information on there. We've also, we haven't quite pulled it up here, but in a couple other regions, we've picked up some iPads for the office essentially, and they'll load them up at the office with the information. They'll bring them to the meeting, and then when they're done, they take them back, kind of deal as well. Just again, to be a little bit more green. And
Some boards have their own, and they use them at the district.
And then we don't have, then we won't also have, what do you want to call it? Personal information, I think it's public information. That
Correct.
You would already have it. It wouldn't be like I've got it here, and so I got to give it to you guys, and you got to take care of it and whatnot.
Yeah, and look, if the board, chose to kind of get their own, you'll have the extra money in there from the savings.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? Gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, I'm sorry.
Go.
If the board could then indicate that for next week's agenda, because it's already been,
20th?
yeah, that there be an item on the agenda for consideration of proposal from Infomart, and then Infomart get that materials to Premier and board members as soon as possible. Proposal plus the costs and.
Yep, final
And
proposal.
authorize
Got it.
preparation of a draft agreement to be included in the packet.
Right.
Yeah.
We may have someone else that will also do.
Annalise has also been in contact with another company that weren't able to be here today.
So they'll come next.
But, yeah,
What I would suggest is if they come, have them on the agenda and then also have those materials in advance. So they can send all the materials to Premier, so they can put them in the agenda packet, so that the board can have them all in advance as well as the public.
Sure.
Right, so by the time the 20th rolls around, as a board, we're gonna have to be, shortly thereafter, we're gonna have to make a decision.
Absolutely.
We're gonna be time crunched here.
So, the one thing, so we can get together, I don't know if we need to make a motion, but we'll get you the final numbers. Just keep in mind too, if we look at, some of the other districts and you're just looking at the total, costs or charges, it's not apples to apples. A number of them have significantly less meetings than they do here. They don't have the wastewater or the treatment facility, which is, the more comparable, is Riverwood, where they do kind of have that. I understand they have more amenities than here, but at the end of the day, there's still typically a lot of involvement between the district manager and just making sure that they're working with the treatment vendor.
And we also talked about at one time with you folks about, that it might take you a while to get your feet wet and know what it's actually going to take for hours.
Yeah.
And maybe we look at adjusting it up or down at some point.
Yeah, one of the things is part of kind of, I'd say sharpen the pencil, but again, reevaluating kind of the deal is to look at it and going, we don't know what we don't know, right? Kind of coming in, so we make some assumptions, and as I was telling Steve, I also looked at, the way we manage our clients. We keep track of the number of hours that all of our team spends on it, whether it's accounting or recording or the district manager or the field, like all their hours get kind of recorded, so we can look at the profitability by account, but we also look at it by account. So we know how many hours historically it kind of took to do the district management part outside of the kind of the treatment plant. And that's what we use to kind of build kind of the proposal that we put together here. Now, maybe things are different now, different board, different things. So we're willing to sharpen our pencil with the assumption that, we're going to make some assumptions to go. And then, if we can take a look at it and say, okay, we're going to give a discount up front essentially to get in, hoping that things are different and that it won't take as much time from the DM as it usually took or things of that nature. But if it becomes something like that, then we can have a conversation. And we're not, we don't want to do that. We'd rather just kind of get it right the first time. But again, that's kind of where some of the assumptions came in on the initial.
And you have to make money. That's the bottom line. You have to make money and we have to be able to figure out how to pay it. Huh?
Yeah, it helps.
You can't get what you don't pay for.
Right, so anyway.
I do appreciate your time, fellows.
Hey, well, any other questions?
Thank you. Justin, if you, Chris, can you send me the contact info? I've known Justin for a number of years.
Absolutely, I'll make sure.
So Justin, if you can have Justin send me information.
Okay, we'll do. Thank you for your time, appreciate it. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Consideration of resolution regarding signatures on district checking accounts.
Stuff you're already getting.
I'm sorry? I know what it is. We need to have a discussion on it.
We have to approve that, correct? Yeah, I guess, and Gabby, you have the present resolutions that.
I'll say that again.
For the bank, so I guess they require.
No, we don't have anything. It was just a special meeting that's going to be on the 20th. Anything that.
Okay, so I guess the discussion would be for the board to give direction that preparation of the actual resolution document that would indicate the signatories on the district's checking accounts. And so, Mr. Chairman, if I can lead that discussion, or Mr. Tuck start that discussion as to what's the board's desire.
Well, I know at the last meeting or two, we discussed about having two signatures. And I guess, I thought we voted on it, but.
And I guess the question is, would be two signatures for every check or just over $1 threshold?
That's the thing. I know I got an email from them, and it's like they auto pay some things and all that. I don't think we're so much worried about the electrical bills and whatnot as we are about the engineering bills, the attorney's fees, the management fees, that type of thing, that out of the ordinary things.
Or a certain dollar threshold.
And just, well, yes.
Is there a dollar threshold that you would be comfortable?
What do we have now?
I don't, from the standpoint of recording the chairman's signature, I don't think there's any requirement.
But I mean, normally if it's like over 10,000, it has to come before the board, or wasn't there something like that?
I think that's the indication, but I'm just talking about the idea of two signatures. If you want to have it, that the chair needs to sign, or in the absence of the vice chair.
And I'm not sure that it actually has to be a signature.
You're talking approval.
As an approval, yes.
Okay.
Because
How do you do an approval without a signature?
It'd be an email, it could be like an email. I guess if you're gonna physically sign a check, it'd be more, because then the checks have to come down.
yes.
With their system, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Strong Room or the Access system that they work with, but it's the same family of bookkeeping online. In that system, Steve would be able to log in, see all the invoices, check them off, boom, 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 approve, sign back out, and it's done. I do it for resort management right now for our association, for master. I'm logged into Strong Room anytime there's a bill. If notice is my phone that I have a bill in Strong Room, I can jump in there, look it over, pull the invoice itself right up, take a look at it, see who it is and what it is, and oh yeah, we could have that done for that much, and I can approve it right there, and it's gone.
So that's the current system that Premier's using.
Infomark uses it, Premier does not at this time.
Infomark uses it,
Yes.
Dan.
Yeah.
And let me please jump in and say, no, you don't go boom, 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 approve everything. You look at absolutely everything, because there are people that go boom, 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 approve everything, and then it makes a mess for everybody
I'm just
else.
saying that you can pull up each invoice, say I have 5
I know,
I'm
just being smart, that's all.
Just so that you know how it's going now, when I get the invoices, I go through every line. I look at every hour that's being billed. And part of the problem right now is some of it, especially like on the engineering bill, they'll have a line item on it, and it'll be several unrelated things. So it's very difficult for me to put a specific number on a specific expense, which we're going to work to get that changed. But absolutely, be rest assured, there's no boom, 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 not no.
What I meant to say, it's a slow cross. It's a slow boom.
No.
But from anywhere, any place, I can pull up an invoice.
I do it too for the master.
And blow it up and look at it, and in a couple minutes, I know what the invoice is for, how much it was.
If it was coded correctly too.
Correct.
It also shows you how much money is in your bank account, at least the
And
one
you
over there.
and the citizens here are going to be privy to all of that, or at least according to me. I would like to see our financials. Anybody who wants to see them, could pull them up.
Yeah, I'd like to see the bills posted for every month. I'd like to see the bills posted.
Right. I would feel if I see it, the community should see it.
One other approach could be on that. There's a number of items. One is, so for clarification, the discussion really is, I think it's ongoing now, the chair has to authorize approve all payments, correct, of invoices. So I don't think it requires a change right now, because then if we new management company, you'll have a different process.
Right.
But from the standpoint of all the invoices, every governmental body is different, every district's different. One of my districts in the past used to have in their agenda packets once a month, all of the invoices, so that you wouldn't. One of the concerns always is the ADA issues if you're posting stuff online to make it ADA accessible. And there's a way to do that. Districts are going to certain hyperlink processes, and like that. But that might be another way. The agenda books get bigger, but everybody can see what the proposed invoices and vendor invoices are. That's another approach. So you may want to talk about that.
See, and one of the things I'm looking at, and the reason for this is I rode around with Robert the other day, because Kevin is gone. He's on a cruise. So I rode around with him and we looked at the landscaping and whatnot in here. And they're doing some work on 41 there and whatnot. And so my question is, well, you're putting all these plants in here. Who's paying for those? What are they costing us? How much is it costing us a year just to keep the water pipes, because they get broke quite often, so forth. Well, this way, the community should be able to look at it and say, this is what it's actually costing us. For better or for worse, this is what it is. Because I want people to feel comfortable that nothing's being hidden,
Yeah, again, there's varying approaches. One of my district clients, they just published basically the check line for that month. So they can see which vendors, which payments. The other one used to in the past have hundreds of pages of all the vendor statements. And they decided to change that. But for years they did. So again, that's up to the board to decide how we want to proceed. Or in talking with the new manager, how they're gonna post it online, so it's not to be expensive from an ADA perspective. The board has all kinds of options.
Yeah, I think we need to work through that when we pick the
Yeah,
manager.
but for right now, it sounds as if the checks are not being issued, the payment not being made until you authorize invoices. Is that
Okay.
currently going on or not? Yeah, I mean, you don't.
And that's what I've been waiting, I was waiting for today to find out what the board wanted to do.
Okay,
Well, this is a very short interim process here, right?
yes.
And we agreed with Cal, we were on the phone, I believe Cal agreed to send them to Steve after they're all set and ready for payment. Steve would get them. And we talked about
Okay,
phone meeting.
yeah, and what I would suggest then is to formalize that.
Yeah, 'cause
give directions to the manager. Yeah, a motion, an appropriate motion would be, direct the manager to provide all payment requests from vendors that are not automatic pay to the chairman for the chairman to review and approve before payment is made. Is that the motion? That's the motion. Is that your motion, Mr. Clark? That's your motion.
Can you
Is there a
repeat
second?
that, please? I'm sorry, I can hear. Can you repeat that, the motion?
Motion would be to direct the manager to submit all payment requests to the chair for review and approval, except for the current automatic payment processes. That's what it is.
So how many signatures are we gonna?
With no signatures, it's
Do
just
we
an
even,
approval.
do we need a I'm not looking to put my signature on your
Correct.
check.
It's
Just
not
for the
necessary.
motion, we need
The
this,
motion is to direct the manager
right,
before making payment
right.
for any vendor's invoices or statements, to provide the statements or invoices to the chair for the chair's prior approval.
For the chair, okay.
And
That's
that
fine.
excludes automatic payments, ACHs or auto pays that are currently set up. Is that sense of the board?
Yes.
And
Could
this
you
is,
tell me quickly, if you know, what would our auto pays encompass right now? I would assume electric.
I can't comment on that.
Okay.
I have no idea. The only thing on this specific topic, all I know is that there was discussion on it twice already, but there was no decision making. And the minutes don't disclose any decision that was made. That's why Tony is trying to get an actual motion.
Okay.
We need a second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Just one caveat is that there was a Florida Prompt Payment Act, which gives plenty of time or window for payments to be made if it's deemed a proper invoice.
Do we have to add-
We don't want to hold them up.
No, that's in the statute, so we don't have to add that. That's up to the
Okay, so we don't have to add a time frame to that?
No, I think that the chair is pretty, sounds like the chair is pretty responsive to those.
Now that
And-
we've decided what we're gonna do, I'll make it happen
All of them.
as soon as I get it.
Yeah,
And my understanding is, I'm sorry, Tony, to interrupt, and my understanding is for all invoices, right?
They're not out.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Unless there's some bond payments or something else that has to be made automatically or to a trustee. That's
That's
not really an
This
invoice.
isn't gonna go on for long,
So
so.
once again, these are vendor invoices.
Right.
Just from the standpoint of the Prompt Payment Act, there are timeframes, but they're generally doable, if you respond quickly. And if there's a dispute as to an invoice, there's a dispute resolution process in there. So we can chat about that if we come to it.
And typically, if I need to do something and I don't get to you right away, send me a notice, because typically I respond quickly if I can. So,
And all agreed, right?
all agreed.
All say aye.
Aye.
All in favor? I don't want to try to paraphrase the Prompt Payment Act.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I think Justin can appreciate my not wanting to paraphrase the Prompt Payment Act. Because there's construction time, there's non-construction service time.
Okay.
District manager.
Do you have any district manager items for us?
No, I do not.
Okay. Attorney's report?
It's just a follow-up about, those two are sort of tied together. I suggested they two different agenda items. I have the board, and again, it requires two parties to agree to the process. If we have the termination letter, as the board discussed, from previous district management, and their services under that termination will expire as of February 18th. Whether or not, this may be premature now to discuss an interim 10-day agreement. I'm just thinking it's up to the board, because it sounds as if on January 20th, the board's in a position to make a decision. I don't know, the management company, either Infomark or the one that Ms. Hanson is suggesting make a presentation. Then, I think from the board's perspective, if the utility bills should go out in a timely fashion, that's usually the interim, short-term agreement, it's up to the board whether they want to consider properly. Just for 10 days only. Basically, same terms and conditions, just prorate dollars to be for a 10-day period.
What's the purpose of extending it for 10 days? Just to send out bills?
That was part of the thought process.
It gives us. They're late.
No, I understand. Once again, it's a board discussion. I'm just, okay,
No, I mean,
my goal is to bring an issue up.
I don't think she's arguing, she just wants.
No, I just want to know, what's the downside to the bill going out a week or 2 weeks late?
Again, I don't know what the cash flow and payment requirements are for all operations and phases.
I would think we have a lot of money in our account, I would guess, so I can't imagine that the accounts receivable is gonna hurt us a whole lot over a short period of time.
No, the only reason that we pushed for that was to make sure that the billing got done. The money would be coming to the account at that time, right?
Generally, to maintain a certain continuity and better,
But I thought it would be easier to turn it over between whichever management company we go with and our current management company, as the money would mostly be in already with the bills by the end of the month, because they go out like the third week. So that it'll all be coming in.
Did it go to the third week? I'm not sure.
Well, they did it this month, they did it early already, right? It went early.
I'm sorry, what
The utility billing? When's the next scheduled utility billing run?
I'm not familiar because I don't handle the utility billing part.
Okay.
So, yeah, I won't be able to.
Sorry.
Yeah. My recommendation.
If you can come forward so we can get that record.
No problem. So, Chris Torres, my recommendation is if it's an option to do a proration and extend to the end of the month, you should probably do that. In part because there's no vote today, if you see and you vote on the 20th, right, at your next meeting, whatever that is, it's typically then you have to go through, you'll get permission for the attorney to, review and approve the contract based on a certain threshold of dollar amount or whatever it is. That may not happen right away. That may take a back and forth exchange or something like that to get that done. It could take, a week to get done, which means, when I say 30 days to transition, that's from the time of an executed contract and, then be able to kind of go from there. So just to hedge your bets and caution, if it's an option, it's safer to probably do that.
Well, I think,
Just a thought.
I think he's right, because I think you said there's another management company, we don't know how fast they would transition. If we went with them. So, I mean, what's 10 days except, I know you want.
What I did, I marked up in red handwriting because I didn't have a Word version of this. And I shared it with Mr. Truckee and Mr. McNamee ahead of time, and I don't know if you have any thoughts or questions about what I sent out.
I didn't see where it was gonna, the money's the same, we're just changing the date, correct?
Well, not just
Mainly?
changing the date, there are a number of other items in there that I can walk you through it quickly, just so you can get a sense.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can pass this down. And again, pardon my handwriting if you can't read it. I'll translate for you, and my assistant gets a degree in advanced hieroglyphics.
Okay.
Understand how this happens. Thank you. Thank you for the copy. If we can go to the first page again, just, it'll be the 18th of February, the date. On the fee, paragraph 2 gets changed substantially because it's, this annual part applies and adjustments. Then paragraph 3, the agreement becomes effective February 18th and terminates on February 28th. Just takes care of that. And 4 and 5 and 6 are the same. Now, 6 changes a bit on the conflict of interest part because a lot of it, timing-wise, doesn't make any sense. So I just try to simplify it, plus in 10 days.
Okay.
The possibility of conflicts arising is, as you say, dependent.
Sure.
7's the same, 8's the same, 9's the same. When we get to 10, just changing the contact names. 11's the same. 14, just wanted to, it talks about the manager defined under this agreement as premier, because it's not responsible for any actual omissions of any previous manager. So I just want to clarify any previous manager excluding the defined manager, PDM. Just clarifying that. When I get down to the bottom of that, we're talking about monies deposited in the bank. I just wanted to add a qualified public depository. I think you've heard that discussion. All the funds have to be in QED, so that's just clarifying. 15 is the same, 15 we just changed some of the contact. 16 is the same, 17 is the same, 18 is the same, 19 we add E-Verify. Then, as far as the scope of service, let's just keep it the same for that period of time. Then when we got to the rates, which is Exhibit B, we get the page, and the date, base billing, about the preparation, I left the date so I can say, what date would you want to insert there for the billing to be by no later than February 27th, 25th, 26th? Well, anytime before.
Part of it is that we've got to send out the billing, but then we also have to have somebody in place to answer the phone when somebody says they have a problem.
Yeah, and I guess part of this would be, and I'm just thinking about an operation, whether or not the utility billing will say, this is the last bill you get for Premier. Any questions, please contact after 28, please contact someone. So,
okay.
I mean, that might,
yeah.
I'm not a management guy. That's a Justin and Chris kind of issue, but that might be a way to approach it.
Yeah.
And also as to where the monies would go. It sounds like the management company would
have a
go
new bank
all
account.
the bank accounts
Yeah.
and then transition later.
That's not what you said. That's not what you said. Should they take over the same bank account?
They would take.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We would just become, on the new bank account, become the person on the.
Authorized signatories.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even easier now.
And then it's for us to develop a new bank, you go to a new bank we have a relationship with. Who do you bank with presently?
That Valley or what?
We have Great Valley.
We already have an agreement and a relationship with Valley, so it shouldn't be an issue.
I would suggest maybe the 20, not knowing when the bill is usually go out.
Yeah. I'm not sure either, but.
You want to do it the 28th so that all the questions would go to an environmental company?
Well, if the 20th is the last day though, maybe you want to do it a couple days before that, just in case there's a glitch. What about website?
You should own the domain, so Mir should own that. I think you pay for it, I think it's yours.
Okay.
And
How do you
you
know?
should be doing this transition into the new management company as far as authorized user on the account.
Yeah, part of the transition
Yeah,
should be
it's-
whatever contracts the district has.
Are you still hosting with GoDaddy?
We use WordPress.
Could you find that out for us?
Sure, we can get answers for you for the 20th.
We have someone who uses WordPress, and I think we still have access to the ability.
That website, I've been going through it a few times. There's some pretty old information on there that would be nice to get updated, like just plat maps and, aerial pictures and, whatnot.
We can go through a discussion on this. I noticed that you don't have the agenda packet on there. And I know that you talked about ADA issues here. We got another client, a number of clients use another vendor for that.
Okay.
And we don't have an issue on that. I know that was a big issue in the state legislature for ADA, and special governments were getting sued. There was a big concern on that.
We did.
The state legislature made some changes on that, so there's less of a concern with that now. And the fees for posting and making ADA compliant is not as expensive as it used to be. And we've got a vendor that we would probably recommend you utilize, that we work well with as a third party, and they handle a lot of that stuff.
Ballpark that for me.
$1,300 a year.
Okay.
Is that good for you?
Maybe make it the 24th, it's a Friday.
Sure.
And that'd be unlimited posting within reason.
Okay.
That's the 24th, and we go on through it. Then we get to the numbers, and this is on Exhibit B. I left the numbers, but these are the numbers that were back in March of 2020, as far as total annual fee. I don't know what that is today, and I don't know what the breakdown is, because the annual fee at that time, March of 2020, was $139,955. There's a breakdown as to the all services identified in scope. Exhibit A was $91,230. Field services was $22,175. Utility billing was $26,550. And I guess the question is, has that been modified since that time? If so, I think what we just do is the other correlation. So we can find out those numbers.
I thought he had built in usage from 2020.
Yes.
I thought he had a 3% increase in everything built into his contract where we didn't, it was never authorized or anything, but he charged 3% more per year.
Yeah, I would
So
just
we'd
get the
have
actual
to-
number that we've been billed, and then did get the breakout from Cal. As to what those numbers are.
We've been paying it.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that much money, so.
Oh, the phone call? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay.
We still gotta pay somebody.
And those are my suggestions, again, this is not a manager, not a policy maker, but, so if there's any other, what I would suggest then is if the board's inclined to authorize me to, get with Premier and suggest a list to them as a.
I don't think the board knows we had an issue. Right. I don't think they're aware of that.
You know, well, go ahead, Dan. The price was definitely set.
Did that go away?
Kind of. That's why we're doing the in-contract writing.
Okay.
Okay. There was an issue with a management company for the extended period wanted to charge additional fees and costs and pretty much said no way. So we're going to write in the standard costs on this, the cost we're paying now for the extension of the how many days, and he'll either accept it or deny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, non-negotiable.
Well prepared with that direction from the board, I will prepare interim agreement for management services to have it on the next agenda. Again, I'll try to get a word formatted version. When I took the PDF and converted it to Word, there are all kinds of format changes.
Do we need a motion on this?
I would suggest that, yes, sir.
Okay. Make a motion that we,
As preparation of a short-term 10-day agreement with Premier District Management, substantially final form is.
can you give me an idea what this may cost?
Oh, for me to do this, if I get the Word version, it won't, I have to cost something, anything, it'll be less than $100.
Perfect.
I can just hand this to my assistant.
There was an if there.
Yeah, I can just hand this, yeah, it's big, I can just hand this to my assistant. She can then make all these edits. If I have to recreate this and write this from scratch.
We can sign it just the way it is, can we not?
Transfer to Word.
No, I did that conversion, and that's all formatting all the changes.
We just initial the changes and go with what you got.
You want to send it to me?
I will send it to you, and if you can work your magic, I will be doing that. Yeah, I used Adobe and exported it to Word, and I was doing fine until I got to the 6th page and sort of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, maybe a new program.
Yeah, I've got Google Docs and all that.
Okay.
So, that's right. I'll send it to you.
Russ?
I didn't get a second.
No, not yet. We're still discussing.
Oh, sorry.
But Dan, you said you've already talked to Cal, and you said he's gonna reject.
Well, I can say he would reject it. After discussion, he didn't really answer.
Okay, so we'll know by the 20th.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Second?
Of this month.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
There was an agreement, Russ, there was an early verbal agreement at one of the meetings that he would do it at the same cost.
Right.
And then he withdrew that due to some things that were said.
That's what I thought you said
The
earlier,
question is whether he's going to stick with his original agreement or not.
I don't know why he turned down the money either.
So we are at 8, right? Supervisors requests and or
Yes.
comments.
Supervisors request, any comments from you? Board members?
I have a couple. Put them here, I have them right in front of me. Right here. We, as a new issue, we have the water, well, it's not new, it's old business. We agreed that we would build a new storage water tank for the facility. And right now, Mitch has an estimate on that. We may have to get a second estimate or something, but we have an idea what that would cost. To actually get exact costs, we have to do engineering. So we have to have an engineer go out and get the permits to build that new water tank.
What do you mean we have to have engineering? Doesn't the place that builds the tank supply engineering?
Well, according to Mitch, our engineer has to do some calculations on the tank and get the permits.
They need some
So
kind of, they need specs.
They need specs, so to speak. So, and we have to get permits. In order to get the permits, we have to have something specced out.
But not for a price, right?
Okay, before we go there, yeah,
Well, Mitch told me that thing wasn't be done tomorrow either.
It does not.
Right.
It doesn't have to be done tomorrow. We do have a little time with it. I asked Mitch where it was at, and he said it's held up right now on permits and inspecting of the tank. So I just wanted to bring
I
that
thought
up.
they inspected the tank.
Well, not-
That's why we know we
no,
needed it.
I'm sorry. Doing the specs on the tank.
Oh, specs.
Okay. So that's where we're at with that water tank. I just wanted you to be aware of that. All FEMA funds, according to Cal, all FEMA funds are due the end of January. So any reimbursement we're gonna get out of FEMA, we have to have put together. And Cal should be taking care of that as he's gonna go through the end of the month. But we have to tally all those up. The new generator for the well field is in. It's at Mitch's facility in Fort Myers. They'll be trucking it up here and installing it either this week or next. So our new our generator that went down during the hurricane, it was an old generator. Now we have a new one, and it will be installed on the well field in the next couple of weeks.
Are we gonna elevate that area at all? You know what I mean? So if he has to go out there and work, he's not working in waist deep water or whatever.
He's hauling gravel right now. The road's being rebuilt as we speak. I don't know how much the elevation is gonna change. Part of that may have to go into impact funds from the Everglades restoration project.
well, that road was also damaged during
It was, and that's covered.
during that.
That's going under the FEMA funds.
Can you follow up with Cal to make sure that this stuff is being handled?
I will.
Okay.
We have to make sure that we have all the FEMA funds together though. And the generator, the pump stations, the improvements to the pump stations, because they went down during the hurricane. That is all part of it. And I think Cal had a list of a couple other items that were, there was some brush removal and pickup, some waste and things that Solos picked up. There's billing for that. So there's several different bills that have to come together and be totaled and turned in before the end of January.
What I would suggest possibly, Mr. Chairman, is that an agenda item for next board meeting, it's not really on there. I mean, the draft agenda went out, I don't know what's going to get. Other than that, the status on the FEMA claims and including detailed backup on be an agenda item for the board to see all that.
So that's
And I'm hoping that Mr. Truckee can work with Cal before the 20th to make sure that we've got
I
this
will,
covered.
yeah. Because there's a gravel, rebuilding the road is in there, the generator's in there, the lift stations are in there, the waste pickup and debris from the hurricane is in there. I'm trying to think.
Didn't we have a portable generator go down during that storm as well?
We did, we were supposed to get a portable generator on that. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
The other thing I'm curious about are these septic pump stations that we've got, like down Katie's Drive and a few other places. You know, they went and they pumped those out. I'm wondering, is there a direct electrical hookup to those so that if you came with this portable, it's a plug and play? Or did they have to wire it into the boxes? Or, I'd like to know that.
I'll get the Mitch on that. It was supposed to be a plug and play, because we're buying another generator and things so that we'll be able to run that over there and hook it up.
Okay.
Hopefully it's plug and play.
I don't suppose we can ask for an additional generator, can we?
Not
Those are his.
not on
Okay. I got a hold of Soto as well, and Soto was able to tell me where there was a meter and a shutoff valve straight across from the entryway of Orchid Cove. And I guess this has happened once in the past, maybe like 3 years ago, and they never really figured out why that irrigation line all of a sudden got energized. Something's changed out there, but they never were able to track it down. So I think what they're going to end up doing is digging it up, figuring out where that water's coming from, and cap that line, because that was used when they put in trees years ago.
To assist with grant monies for things like communities like ours?
I haven't done anything with grants yet, except for my experience with FEMA. One of our communities was able to obtain about $4.4 million from FEMA because of Hurricane Irma lake bank damage. Since then, I've pretty much recommended most of our clients utilize a specialist for that, so you're more guaranteed to get the funds. You are correct. Time is of the essence of that right now,
Right.
and I would want to make sure that the CAL is following that properly right now. But the individual that I recommend is the former attorney for Fire Department Emergency Management. He specializes in this. As far as I know, there's only like a couple of people in the country who specialize in this, to do that. And he's been very effective, and his hourly fee is pretty low.
Can you send us that information, or you can give it to us after the meeting? Okay.
Appreciate that. What else?
Thank you.
Oh, another thing, Dan and I went out, there was a tree over on Case Drive, next to that property that I own, and the tree's been hanging, it's blocked the street light, first of all, but the second of all, it's hanging over the top of all the electrical panels and whatnot there. The field manager here suggested that tree be removed. Soda went and looked at it, he said it's an invasive species. It could be taken out, should be taken out. It would have cost us $1,500 to $2,000. Dan and I went and took it out. So, and trimmed everything up.
Thank you.
In the community, if anyone has an issue and we can do it as a community project, we have no problem doing a work day here and there to help our community. So if you have issues like that or something you see that's got to get done, let us know.
Yeah, so if there's anything out there, I mean, we'll do as much of the work here personally as we can, rather than paying somebody to do it. The fellows from the county have just showed up, is that correct?
Okay.
Good. We're ready for you, sir.
Mr. McKenna, All right, how are you doing?
Hey, Jack, how are you?
Good. Didn't recognize you from the back.
No, there's a reason for that.
I'm not sure who this gentleman is.
I'm Jeff Letourneau from Cuyahoga County Code Enforcement.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing? Good, good. Is there a format here or just?
Have a chair if you want, I don't care. It's up to you
Probably
guys.
if you stand over here so that you can speak this way out to everybody.
Okay.
Fortunately, we don't have a good sound system here.
I don't really have a presentation particularly. Lisa had invited me to come down and talk here. Port of the Islands is a very unique situation, and Tony and I have talked about this, and Tony and I have known each other for 4 decades probably.
No.
Working together.
We still talk to each other.
Yeah.
We don't always agree, but we still talk to each other.
Can you state your name, please, for the record?
I'm
Sorry.
Jack McKenna. I'm the county engineer. And so, what was it, probably a year ago, something like that, got involved with a code case down here that was, the code case was brought by the board to our code enforcement. Jeff is the manager with code enforcement, Jeff Letourneau. And that code case was for an inlet being built at the end of a cul-de-sac, and code enforcement comes to me as the county engineer to ask, is this a violation? The answer in that case was, it is a violation in that it did not meet the plans that the improvement district has for the community. Is someone going to die with it? No, but it just didn't meet the plans. It would be a modification of the plans. Well, it seems like after that, there started to be rock throwing happening within the community, back and forth, and all of these battles going on with, well, look at that, look at that, look at that. And clearly, there's a litany of things that are not meeting the plans in this community. Really, are any of them life-threatening? No, but technically they're not meeting the plans. The plans are very antiquated. They didn't consider the elevations that are happening on the buildings. They didn't look at, now we're building mega homes, where this was a relatively small, fishing village, for lack of a better term, at one point. And so, I guess I have a couple thoughts here. One is the possibility of having the improvement district just do a fell swoop modification of the plan, get everything that's done, put on the plan, so it's meeting the plan as a possibility. Another possibility would be, and I'm going to look at Tony with this to see if it is a possibility. When an improvement district was set up, at least my experience, I've been involved in setting one up. Tony's involved with quite a number of them at this point, I think. But the doctrines that are establishing that district limit the function of the district. You can have your own fire department, you can have your own traffic department, you can have your own police department, you can do a lot of things. And there's other improvement districts that do this. Most of them that I've been experienced with here in Cuyahoga County don't go to that extent. They have limited control. They build roads. They do the drainage being a big function here in your community. And if that function could be extended to where you have the responsibility to maintain the drainage and look out for this stuff, could the jurisdiction of it go to you, where you can approve or disapprove the modifications, which God knows there's lots of them. The PVC pipes, the walkways to the docks. Are any of those a real problem from my point of view? No, only in that they're not meeting the plans. I will say there's, I'm an engineer, I look at the engineering aspects. There are some folks who, at the county, that would go, oh my God, no, you've got to be treating that water. You've got to, I'm not in that camp, but it's not my profession either. I really, from my point of view, the solution to pollution is dilution. There's a whole lot of water coming down from Golden Gate Estates down that canal, and I don't think there's a great amount of degradation to the water quality as a result of what's happening there. Yes, the plans called for a treatment swale. That swale should be there to provide some water quality treatment. The functionality of it, I recognize with the change in buildings that are happening now, elevated and all that, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to enjoy your property as you expect to as a property owner. So I've asked Jeff, and now Joe's just joined us also from code enforcement to be here for questions relative to the enforcement of codes. Right now, we have a few violations that have been identified in the community. Excuse me. Again, do they really keep me from sleeping at night? No, but they're violations, and they, technically, the violation should be handled at some point. And getting more violations pumped in, which is what I see the great potential of happening here, is having this dynamic where, well, I'm finding this, and this. I'm not sure that that's productive. And so I was invited to take the opportunity to talk, and that's kind of my theme.
I have one question. Now, when you say that they're not in compliance, not compliant with the CID or not compliant with the county's codes?
It's the county codes say that stuff needs to remain consistent with the original design plans. They were designed by the professional engineer and approved by the county at the time. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm asked if this is a violation, if it's not consistent with that plan, I have to say, yes, it's a violation. And there, all these little modifications that have happened in the community in that regard would be violations. What do you do to make them not violations? You can modify the plan to have that incorporated into the plan. And that, from my point of view, that modification would need to be done by the improvement district because it is their set of plans. You wouldn't want someone else modifying your plans there.
So would we be able to do, like, say, non-substantial changes without it being really involved?
Everything that I've seen done would be considered, and at the county we have different review processes, and it would be an insubstantial change to the plans.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, though,
Yes.
I think one important point, though, we have the county and their regulatory scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything else, there's always multiple agencies that are involved. So you have South Florida Water Management District also.
Good point. Yeah.
So that's another, to the extent that the county may say, this is great, you all can change your plans. South Florida, I think you've heard that before, the district engineer, but also need to approve and sign off on that.
Yeah, you have to be consistent.
And to Jack's point with regards to some district regulatory scheme, I think I've mentioned before, like you said it, one of my other districts, Gateway, had what they call a permit criteria manual. And the permit criteria manual says, here's what you need to do when you are going to develop something to discharge into the Gateway Services Community Development District Stormwater Management System. Here's the criteria, here's the process, here are the fees. And so that's something that this board has the ability to adopt a set of rules to provide for that process for development and redevelopment.
Could you get me a copy of that?
Sure. Yeah, and
so what I'm wondering is, sorry to interrupt, is if we could work together with the county, maybe, I'd love to do it as a whole board, but I don't know if we can do it with the sunshine law, to go through the community with the county and identify some of these smaller things that you're talking about and say, is this something that we can do a change on? Or, what will you allow and what can we do? But work together with you folks?
Yeah, I would think that would be a reasonable approach, and typically I'd say on a larger scale, not on insubstantial changes, but we have what's called a pre-application meeting, and where we could put the appropriate staff together and meet in a room and right, with sunshine, you probably need all of you to be there, but.
Well, one board member could be there, but not delegating any authority. A board member could be there as a representative. But the ultimate decision-making has to be made in a publicly noticed meeting, accessible to everybody.
I'm just wondering how we could interact with them as a group opposed to one person.
The only way you can do it is a noticed public meeting at a public facility where anybody can attend.
So if we did a walk around, you
cannot do a walk around.
Really?
That's correct.
Darn.
When it gets very dicey when you walk around, you have to have the ability of the public to hear everything that's said.
Okay.
You have to have minutes taken of that, walk around, conversations. I don't recommend those kind of tours.
So maybe we put those on video.
I'm sorry?
Maybe we put those issues on video and we sit down in an open meeting and say, here's the spot, or that type of thing?
Yeah, one board member do that, walk around with a representative of the community you want, or a district engineer, or and somebody from the staff of the county if Jack's willing to walk around.
Is it something that can be done on like Skype? How does that play in that technology?
I think it's really, because you have to have a physically established quorum of the board. Otherwise, you have the meetings and the question whether or not Skype is accessible to all. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want to run.
Throwing it out there.
I don't want to run into those issues. I don't want anybody challenging it with sunshine law.
Could it be a resident?
Because in that particular instance, that the board could have at a board meeting for the public as a whole to see the walk arounds and the discussions.
A different board member for each community with a resident from that community.
That'd be fine. But you can't have any interaction, again, no interaction between board members
Well, it
at
wouldn't
all.
be between board members, it would be between.
Well, I understand, but one board
That
member can't say,
member-
listen, I was over here, I saw you can't do that.
No,
I know what you're doing.
I would
Gotcha.
meet with you, and you and I would talk about it, and then at the next meeting,
Present it.
everybody else who walked with their representative from the community would bring all that information to the meeting and discuss it.
And the procedures they go through for each.
Ideas?
Sound good?
I just want to know how many code violations, I'm going to hear from this gentleman.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Lanterno, Manager of Code Enforcement. I really just got involved with this recently through conversations with Jack. So I asked Joe, and it seems like we only have one property right now that's actually got certified code complaints on it.
Can you share that with me?
I guess, Mr.
I can, yes,
Mr. Luttrell, you talking about Joe Levy, or did you say Joe?
No.
No, Joe Mucha right here.
Joe Mucha, okay.
Yeah, he's a supervisor for this area right
Oh,
now.
no, I want to say for the record.
Yeah, for the record, okay.
Thank you. Too many
Yeah,
Joes.
this is public
Sorry.
record, and I can leave this with you guys. It's, the property is 163 Sunset Case Drive.
Okay.
Mr. Mess, I believe.
The pipe is, all right.
Yeah, and we've got.
162, 163.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm not really up on CIDs and the authority as far as their interaction with the county. But in my experience with code enforcement, it's always good to try to alleviate these types of issues locally rather than getting code enforcement involved. Because, our thing is, we're just going to say, hey, get it done, or we're going to take you to a hearing and, ask for fines or whatever. It'd be better just to do it in conjunction with the engineering and the planning and zoning of Collier County. And I like your guys' idea of trying to do a broad, whatever you need to do, if it's substantial changes or a whole new site development. I don't know what the sign off is going to be, but that would definitely be the best way to go. But I've got 3 complaints on this particular property. I can sit on these while you guys are doing that process. So if you guys are looking like you're going forward and trying to get compliance, that's going to alleviate this particular property.
See, we're a new board here. The old board pretty much dealt with all of this, so we're kind of coming in after the fact. I think we have a little bit different ideas maybe than the past board does, but we need to get educated. And not only not just for this, but we're still building other properties, and we need to get a handle on, you know, the rights and the wrongs of what's going on in here, because like I was saying before, I don't know, you know, what's a CID thing and what's a county thing, you know? Because
yeah, we're in the same boat.
Yeah, okay.
So,
You put them on hold.
is there, I mean, one of the complainants is a David Schmidt? Is a district, David Schmidt?
Engineer.
Okay. Is he gonna have an issue with, you know, this direction you guys are planning on going in, or?
He will do whatever we ask him to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess for clarification, the direction for the filing of the code enforcement complaint came into the board's direction. And this board is taking a little bit different approach, so the board can provide different directions to the district engineer. In fact, the board can advise today that they are the entity that authorized their agent to file the complaint.
Okay.
So that the board can say, please code enforcement, put these on hold while we try to work through these issues, if that's the board's pleasure.
There's another, the last complaint came in a few months ago, from a Karen Reed who appears to live up. It's you? Okay. Are you okay with the code sitting on this while we try to alleviate it locally here, or?
I have some additional issues, questions being the way things were done and code violations as far as drainage easements go. When surveys were looked at down at the county, I mean, because you haven't looked at 162, doing the extension on the driveway into the drainage easement, on top of the drainage easement. From my understanding, when I like to educate myself, so I go down to the county and I ask. And I take my surveys, and I say, should this be approved? No, because it goes over the drainage easement. The house could have been put over a utility easement, and you can fudge that a little bit better. But that's not being addressed. So just to say, hey, well, we're gonna redo it and that'd be okay, no. Because I was told and other people were told that there's issues with the drainage easement itself and the whole paver issue. Pervious, impervious, you can put paver wherever you want. And from my understanding, the county was, when I asked, is you have pervious and impervious driveways of one pavement lay with an underlayment, and lanais and other areas recreational are different with the same, they shift. But you can't do a driveway and have the sub layer go into a drainage easement. So I mean, you give different answers, you get different questions. These are the things that need to be resolved, because you get one answer, then you get another answer.
Would that be something that would be under your purview as a non-substantial change?
Substantial.
Unsubstantial?
Let me, if I may just discuss this for a minute, I'll look at Tony here for advice. My view, and this question has come to me relative to the drive being over the drainage easement. The drainage easement I don't see as being an exclusive easement, and if the driveway is not limiting the drainage, I don't have an issue with that in the, you know, the improvement district may, because if they need to go in there to improve the work in the drainage easement, they're gonna tear the driveway up, but I think they have that right, because it's not an exclusive easement. The easement is to allow the drainage, but you can do something else there, which is, in this case, have a driveway.
Just one caveat, Jack. The easement holder is the dominant estate. Whenever you have ownership of property, you have the fee simple owner, I'm the fee simple owner of my house, property my house sits. I have an easement, drainage easement that runs over a portion of the property. That easement holder is the dominant estate. I cannot interfere with that easement holder's rights. So to the extent that the easement holder makes a determination that there's an interference with the easement, that's up to the easement holder.
Which I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to say that
It's up to
Yeah,
the,
and
yeah,
so
just
the
the
improvement district is
Correct.
the easement holder. And if they feel that the driveway has interfered with their drainage, they can say, that's our easement, we can't run our drainage through there. This particular case was the original code case that came in where the drainage was put into a pipe, and that's what started this whole thing. That's why I'm here right now, started with this case. And in that case, the pipe was put in, a box was put in. It was a good job that was done with it, but it wouldn't have been approved by the county if it had come in as an insubstantial change because the pipe was smaller than our minimum 15-inch size, and the box was not an FDOT design. Other than that, it would have been approved. If it was a 15-inch pipe with proper end treatment and a FDOT box, it would be approved. What's out there, do I think, is anyone going to die with it? Is it, really poor quality? No, I think it was done fine, but it's not meeting our county spec, which says everything is to FDOT specifications as far as the drainage structures go.
So are you saying that has to be changed? The pipe itself in the inlet has to be changed?
The pipe in the inlet right now, if that were to come through the county for review as a change, I would say the reviewers would not approve it because of the things I just mentioned.
Does it need to go through the county for a review?
If there's something that could be done and where the improvement district takes responsibility for their own set of plans, and I don't know if I haven't seen that done before. I don't know if it can be. Again, I'm going to defer to Tony, as someone that handles a lot more of this. If that could be the improvement district's decision, that would be an ideal situation from my point of view, because I don't think that there's a physical need for the 15-inch. The 15-inch was a convenience for our road maintenance group to be able to go in and check that pipe. So we have 12-inch pipes all over the county, but we changed the criteria to be a 15-inch. The FDOT design, that's a CYA, because FDOT designs everything to specification where they hope to never ever have a problem with it. And what's out there, is there going to be a failure? If there is a failure, it can be fixed. I mean, it's not a high traffic, it's not along the side of a state road, but the county for safety, err on the side of safety has adopted everything is FDOT design, just as a CYA.
Okay.
I think as a board,
Because it,
as a board, I think we would be silly.
I'm sorry.
would that have to ensure that a backflow valve is put into it?
A backflow is more for potable water. So that.
The original plan on the survey, before the other shows a backflow valve that is in that pipe.
A backflow is for drinking water. A backflow prevents contaminants from coming back into the water main. We're talking about stormwater.
We are, yeah, but there's one-way valves, there's duckbill valves, but
I'm just saying the original plan show a backflow valve. I'm just saying, if there's any changes that are gonna need to be made, those changes are gonna need to be made.
I wasn't aware of a backflow valve or why there would be, because it was an open swale.
It's right at the street drain, because that used to be open, pretty much open where the water came down and then flowed. So you had, it went in the drain, and then anything overflow, would flow above it. Now there's about a 12-inch bulkhead where it's in the drain, and then, big water, the 14-inch, whatever, you can get that bulkhead and stay there until it all swells down.
Yeah, I'm not really, there's a control structure, is that what you're referring to, the control structure?
Aaron,
We're
getting onto the weeds here. Let's, if you guys want to have a discussion afterwards, we've got to keep moving on.
I'd like to say that as a board, I personally feel that our rules should be equal to or more strict than the county's. That's the way government kind of works. The state can have a management plan, but it has to meet the federal management plan or be more restrictive. Collier County has a management plan. It has to be more restrictive, equal to or more restrictive than the state plan. Right? I don't see why at this point, and as, remember, in the background here, we told you when we were elected as a board that we would look into the county doing more work out here because it just gets more and more expensive for our small community to duplicate what the county does every day. All right, with their professionals and with their people. So with that in mind, as a scope for us, I personally feel that we should meet the county's code requirements for pipes and things like that. So if we have to replace that with a 15 and fix the box, we'll know that anyone in the future that's going to do that same thing because of our steep lots and all that stuff that we got going on, that it would meet the county code requirements. I think that would be a easy way for us to traverse this whole stormwater management thing without having to make special agreements with everybody else here and try to do it as a Port of the Islands, requirements. So I think, to me, that would be my opinion on that, yes.
On the same note that you're talking about, the codes for trailers and cars and boats parked in driveways, in side of the houses, it's really, really getting bad. And I thought codes, it was like 48 hours and 7 days, and they have to be moved.
The problem we have there is that that's a whole other issue, we can address that at a different time, but that falls under the different neighborhoods, and the rules are established and in their bylaws. And we would have to really be careful stepping on those bylaws. So remember, as we stated, the federal government, the state is more restrictive than the federal, and the community can be more restrictive than the state. It would be the same in your individual neighborhoods, like for instance, Delmars North, where I live. We have our bylaws, and we can have a motorhome parked in the driveway for 5 days. We can have a boat in the driveway for 3.
Well, that's an HOA.
That's our HOA, but there are smaller agreements, like Sanctuary Point has an agreement, things like that. But we'll get into that neighborhood things later, but that falls under a whole different thing than what the county enforcement would be.
But I thought it was under the permits.
If anybody wanted to make complaints to the county about any kind of vehicle violations, it's no problem, but the state statute now is we can't take anonymous complaints on anything like that. So you'd have to leave your name, number, and address on that complaint. And we would gladly come out here and address any commercial vehicles, recreational vehicles, inoperable, unlicensed vehicles, stuff like that.
And what's the time limit? As far as how long they have
There's 2 different temporary use permits. You can have one for a week in an RV, and then you can get a 48-hour temporary use permit. I think the week one is 2 times a year, and what's the 48-hour one? I think that's maybe weekly or something like that.
That supersedes the HOA, right?
It does,
The HOA
yes,
can't
yeah.
say, you guys can
Now,
have do whatever you want.
And like you said, if you wanted to adopt stricter codes, you could
Right.
do that, but you couldn't have any,
Less.
you couldn't supersede our codes on a more lenient one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. And I'll leave my card here, so anybody who wants to, talk to me.
Tony's got to go pretty quick here, so let's see what we can get done quick.
I just
Go ahead,
wanna-
Frank.
We'll get back to, in Sunset Cave, I just want to go on record saying, in my opinion, that was never about drainage. That was never about drainage. That could have been regraded, redone, the water flow, as had some of the others can, but initially, it was never
Okay.
about drainage.
Thank you.
You didn't answer the question when you said you want to hold those.
What do you want to do as a board?
You said figure it out first.
You want to put it on hold?
Yes.
How about you?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think we can talk about it.
Do we need a motion?
I would suggest, yes, that the county staff has their direction. So,
I make a motion that we put it on hold until we investigate it further.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That doesn't mean indefinitely.
Okay, so you're gonna hold them until we can figure out how we're gonna handle this?
I am, yes, yeah. I'm gonna,
And you're gonna give
I
us.
don't think it's a health and safety issue at this point, so yeah, we'll wait on what negotiations you can do with, Jack and his staff and zoning and building and whatever else you need.
You said we can have those that you've got?
I've got a few cards here, yes.
No, I not you.
Oh, yeah, yep, you guys can have these right here.
Go ahead.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff?
And, so when you drive down Newport, on the right-hand side, you'll see a bunch of RVs.
Mhm.
How do you know, are those RVs legal because of what happened with the hurricane and people are displaced?
Okay, I don't know if they voted on that yet, but I do believe that there is, maybe they have, but the commissioners might have put something in place where if you have a valid building permit and you're refurbishing your main structure, that you're allowed to have the RV there and live in it during that permit, life of the permit until you get your house in order.
But not here.
I think I saw that they voted on that.
Did they approve that? I didn't see
But
it.
is
So.
that on the premises or off the premises?
It's on the premises.
So that would.
But you have to have a valid permit to be fixing your property, so.
Right, but what she's saying is, this isn't their property that campers or stuff are on. They're on a parking lot, basically.
No, can't do it.
Okay.
Frank, did you have something?
I do.
Wait, can we just go back?
No.
So we could complain to you about what's going on? in the-
Certainly, here, take one of my cards right here. You can call me and make a complaint. Or Joe.
Yeah, I don't wanna
Frank,
displace them.
you can be our last one.
Thank you. Frank Lee, Village of Stella Maris. I wanted to comment about the process, since both these gentlemen are, all three of these gentlemen are here. We did a $2 million construction project that got to be extremely complex. We had a number of good citizens who developed the following protocol. They would go down and talk to someone at the county, desk clerk, somebody's assistant, but it was always someone at the county. They would do this surreptitiously. We would have no notice. And one day, we had 3 separate inspectors on our project. And one of them said, we got 4 calls this morning, 4. And so we've had a meeting with the county and through our commissioner. And here's what happened.
Go ahead, sorry.
We said to the county, you're spending all this time and money running around tracking these complaints down. We don't know about it. The people are well-meaning, but they're quoting federal law and state law and all this stuff, and they were wrong. I don't recall the exact number, but there were like 20-something complaints. Of those 20, not one was ever held to be valid, except for the one where we cut down 7 trees after a hurricane, didn't know we weren't supposed to do it, they were damaged, we were guilty, we paid the fine, we replanted them. And we self-reported on that, by the way. But, so here's what we did with code enforcement. Code enforcement said, we have to pursue complaints. That's our job. We respect that. What we said was, can we be involved in the process? If someone files a complaint and says something, can we give you data or information that you can look at before you go to the, and you know what happened? We ended up writing a letter to the county commission saying our $2 million project was brought in months early and $500,000 under budget. We give a great deal of credit to Collier County Code Enforcement. They helped us. And the way they did it was no more anonymous complaints, no more if there was a reaction, many times, not every time, but many times we'd get a phone call saying, hey Frank, we got somebody that says we got a turbidity problem, we got this and the other. And we would take pictures and send them down. At one point we had a critical issue dealing with boat length. And we said to the county, we asked for an opinion from the county, and we got one in writing from Code Enforcement. They said, this is what we say it is. And sure enough, when somebody filed a complaint, we were able to bring that up, and code enforcement backed us up and said, no, what they're doing is exactly right, and they asked for this opinion 6 months ago. So we developed, I guess the phrase is, they were fair, they were very firm, but they were really cooperative with us. And I'm saying, I don't know how all the limits of this stuff work, but what I'm hearing is what's happening around Port of the Islands is what happened to us. Well-meaning citizens going down, talking with someone at the county, and then repeated phone calls, and then if there could be either an informal or a formal procedure to where people could share information, it would sure it sure work for us. And again, not one of those complaints, not one ever turned out to be valid. And one of the code enforcement gentlemen said to me, he said, you know, this is really working well for us too, because we've got a big job and a lot of county to cover, and we're not wasting time. So I just wanted to say that, and I thank you for listening.
Frank? Anything else, fellas? Did you,
Thank you very much.
if you've got suggestions, by all means, give me a call,
Okay.
or any of us.
So you're gonna set up something with the county and, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. So,
We need this off our plate, just like you do.
yeah, no doubt about it. I'll set a recheck out for 60 days here and see where we're at that point.
Perfect.
Okay? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Appreciate it. Go ahead. No, wait a second. No, we got audience comments.
No, we have them already, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that's pressing that we need to speak about? Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Want something?
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to bring up one thing that I'm sure it's a different meeting.
Do it.
You get that email from Eric Portman. Everybody gets the email from Eric Portman about the property and that. I'm sure we're talking about that in the next meeting.
Give it to her and she can get it on the agenda.
You didn't get the email from him?
I don't remember seeing that, no.
Because I sent Cal an email on 12/1 addressing this issue. He sent that copy of that email to me the 6th.
Yeah.
He did nothing.
Yeah.
So.
I'll get your list.
You know what? I went through all this myself. I know, I read them all myself. Yes, it's, well, worth looking at.
I have another group coming in here at